It's your BOY, Dennis Brown. Like, comment, subscribe to my channel. Share it if that's what you want to do. This video is going in the other way. This is a video about my OG homie, Big Hosey. Big Hosey was my Uncle Truck homeboy, one of his best friends. He used to come over to the house all the time and mess with Truck. You know, Hosey was about 70. He would be about 70 years old if he was still alive. I forgot which year he died, but Big Ho was a big dude. You know, I guess back in the game, he probably was swole. I don't know. You know, he's 20 years older than me. But Big Ho was a nice guy. He was cool. You know, every time he was over there with Truck, they used to always call me Denbo. Denbo from the Alamo. For real. That was cool. As I would say, Denbo from the Alamo. My name is Dennis. But he's like, Denbo from the Alamo. Him and Truck used to always say that all the time. Denbo from the Alamo. I don't know where they got it from. But Big Hosey, he wasn't from the gang that I was from in the neighborhood, but he was from the neighborhood. He was an older cat from the neighborhood. I guess back in the gang, back in this time, you know, like a lot of people back in that time, he started smoking dope. And every time he used to come over there, he always had like $5 or $7. And he'd be like, Denbo, hook me up. Denbo. And I could do nothing but every time he said Denbo, I would always hook him up. When he came with 20, I would give him 40. You know, because Hosey was a cool dude. You know, and I heard Big Hosey was used to get down back in the game. You know, being at Sherm, and it took 10, 12 police to get him off the game. Tasing him, I mean not tasing him, but tasing him with a taser. You know, they said Hosey was like a dang monster truck. And he was like a monster truck. You know, when I seen him, he was older. You know, he still had like a little size on him, but not like the size that they said he had when he was younger, in his younger age. You know, he had big old hands like gorilla hands, monster hands, big old black hands. You know, but Hosey was always talking to me real cool. Anytime the YGs would like want to like push up on Hosey, I was like, I better leave Hosey alone. Hosey will do something to you. You know what I'm saying? Hosey was like that. You know, but as he got older, he slowed down. But they said Hosey was about that life in his time. You know, I didn't get to see Big Hosey when he had his size on him when he was younger and whatnot. And like I say, he's 20 years older than me. Him and my Uncle Truck was homeboys. You know, but Hosey was always cool with me. He'd come through. We'd talk a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And he always had a smile on his face. You know, big black old nigga. You know, he was always smiling though, you know what I'm saying? He was always cool with your boy. And I was always cool with Big Hosey. I say he was my Uncle Truck partner. You know, he didn't always have that much money on him. You know, he come through $7, $8, and he always be like, Denbo, hook me up. Denbo, hook me up. And every time he said Denbo, I always smile, and I would hook Big Hoes up. You know what I'm saying? For real. He and my uncle partner, and he was cool with me. You know, but they said Big Ho was a dang gorilla in his time. You know, for real, sized up, and would get down for his crown. You know, and I wouldn't let none of the YGs mess with Big Hoes. For real. Ho was my partner. Big Hosey was my partner. He was my uncle dog. And I cut for Big Hoes. Big Hoes never had any problems with me. He was always cool with me. And he was Big Hosey. Hosey was a cool dude, you know. He smoked his dope. He bought what he wanted. You know, he didn't have that much money all the time. He only $7, $8, $5, $6, whatever he came with. I would serve him, you know, and I would give him extra though, cause he my uncle partner, and he was cool with me. You know, Big Ho would be smiling. He come talk to my grandpops. They sit on the porch. They talk for hours. You know, for real. Big Ho was my boy. I mean, he wasn't like my boy, like I hung with him or anything like that. But he was a cool older dude that I knew that was cool with my uncle Truck, was cool with my grandpops. And he never gave me no problems. He never gave our family no problems. He come through there and everybody loved Big Hoes. Everybody know Big Hosey. I don't know why his name is Hosey. I don't know his real name, but all I know is his name. Big Hose, Big Hosey. But they say he was a monster back in the game, though, in his younger days. He was a big, strong dude. You know, I bet him when he was older, he slowed down a little bit. He started doing some dope, you know. I never held that against him. Big Hose was always Big Hose to me. A big old dude. I never seen Big Hose when I was grown or nothing like that, but lots of time when you get grown and you see people that you see when they was older and you their size, they don't look as big. But I never seen Big Hov when I was older as a man, grown up. You know, Big Hov always come through. He be smiling all the time. You know, and like I said, he'll say, "Denbo hook me up." And when he said that, it always made me smile. And I hook him up though. You know, like I said, they call me him and my Uncle Truck, Denbo from the Alamo. And I remember my uncle had another friend named Donald. He had a rubber hand on one arm and a metallic hand on the other arm. Them were the only two dudes that I know Truck. They used to mess with Truck with his friends. They used to come over to the house on the weekends or during the week and holler at my Uncle Truck, holler at my grandpops and whatnot. I love them dudes. Big Truck, my uncle, Big Hosey, his partner, and Donald. You know, for real. I love them dudes. And I don't know what made me think of Big Hosey last night, but something made me think of Big Hosey last night. And I said, I'm going to do a video about Big Hosey. You know, Big Hosey is resting in peace right now. But he was a dude from the neighborhood. He wasn't actually from my hood, but he was from the neighborhood that I'm from. He grew up in the neighborhood. He from the neighborhood. But he wasn't from the gang I was from. You know, had mad love for Big Hosey. You know, he'd be always smiling and he'd come through with whatever money he got, he'd spend it. You know, never gave me no problem, never gave the family no problems. And I think that Big Hose would do if any problems came to the family and he was right there, he would be ready to get down with the family. For real. So this video is about Big Hosey. Hosey, Big Hose. You know, I love you, dog. You know what I'm saying? For real. Like I said, I don't know what made me want to do this video, but something just came to me yesterday, and I was thinking about Big Hosey. So Big Hosey, this one for you, dog. For real. I love you, homie. You know, he from the neighborhood. Big Hose. Uncle Truck. His partner Donald. I love y'all boys. You know what I'm saying? For real. But it should be on wide, Dennis Brown. Like, comment, subscribe to my channel. Share it if that's what you want to do. You know, hype it. But I'm out of here.